Okay, it's great to see you all back for another wonderful Tanya Tuesday. And today's class is going to be continuation of last class, and it's going to be continued next week. It's a very long chapter, but don't get too scared. But as I've mentioned the last couple of weeks, these chapters are, for whatever reason, sections that a lot of people don't learn. They're more involved, and honestly, as we've been going through the last couple of weeks. A lot of it is a lot of these classes, these chapters are really about God. In other words, in the all the chapters until now, or until chapter 35, was much about us, and over here we're going into what does God want? What does God want from the world? What is His desire? And so, what was the answer? What did we say? What does God want? What was the answer? Hopefully, some people remember. Why does God create this whole world and send a soul into this earth and put it with an animal soul? What does God want? Somebody's got to remember, I assume, right?
To be here with us.
Okay, right. And correct, but in the words that were used, what words, how did we call it? You're right, to be here with us. The words we used was to make a,
Make a
yeah,
home on this.
very good, very good. Make a home for God on this earth. So you're
Yeah.
correct to be here with us. The words we used was to make a home. In other words, not just that God can be here, but He's here like He's in a home. He can truly, fully be present and be here in a way that there's nothing else. It's just Him, and He can, it's like when you get home and you kick off your shoes, so that God can fully be present and be here. Okay? So in um, the chapter so far, we have explained how um, how do we bring God down here on this earth? It comes through our actions. As we said, Mashiach is not just a reward that comes at the end, but actually we create the year of Mashiach. We create the times of Mashiach. We create a environment that every single time we do a mitzvah, we're fulfilling God's will and we're bringing God here on this earth. And we said when we do that, we are bringing God, number one, in the physical item that we are doing the mitzvah. Number two, we are elevating our animalistic soul. Number three, we're even when we study Torah or say prayers, we're elevating our mouth. And but now today we're going to explain how not only when we do a mitzvah, we are elevating one item that we're doing the mitzvah with, and we are elevating our soul and we're elevating our mouths, but we are actually elevating the entire world around us. That is really what we have to explain. Because again, if our whole goal of this chapter is to explain what does God want, what's God's purpose in this whole creation and sending the soul down into this earth, and our answer is, well, it's to make a home for Him. Well, so far we've given Him a very narrow home. His narrow home is really so far only the item that you do the mitzvah with, only your animal soul, and only your body and your mouth, so to speak. So, how does God reach the entire earth? And so that's what we're going to start with today. And we're going to say God gets to the entire earth because there are other elements involved when we do a mitzvah. Um, let's put it in practical terms. Practically, we are not going to be able to do a mitzvah with every single item in this earth, right? It's not possible. So what about all the other items that we're not doing a mitzvah with? So there, his answer is going to be, number one, all of the food that we eat and all of the water that we drink, or whatever, oranges, soda, whatever you drink, all of that you eat that vivifies you becomes a part of you and becomes a part of the mitzvah that you're doing. So now you're um making your scope of what you elevate more broad. You're bringing out God into a larger area of the world by virtue of everything that goes into who you are that gives you the opportunity to do that mitzvah. All of that becomes involved in the mitzvah. And we can expand this idea further, but we're going to start with food because that's the most obvious one. Just to tell a story, that one time there was, I think I said it last time, one time there were a bunch of Hasidim that were having a Hasidic farbrengen, a Hasidic gathering one evening, and they ran out of food, and it's very important that a Hasidic gathering to have food so people stay. We're Jewish. If you got to talk to Jew through their stomach, so how do you keep people is with food. So they wanted to keep people for this inspiring evening, but there wasn't enough food. So they went. So they had a sheikh there, a ritual slaughter. He went out and he slaughtered the family goat, and they ate some goat meat. Anyways, the next morning, the wife of the host turns to the husband and says, "What happened to our goat? Do you have any idea where he went?" He says, "What do you mean? He's still here." She says, "What do you mean? He's nowhere around. I don't see the goat." He says, "Listen, last night the goat was saying bah, bah, or whatever a goat says. And today the goat is saying Baruch Ata Hashem. Today the goat is blessing Hashem. Why? Because today the goat is part of the people and they are blessing Hashem with the inspiration of the Farbrengen. So the goat is still here. It's just changed its form. It's connected to God. So this is an example of how through a mitzvah we are not only elevating the specific item we're doing the mitzvah with, but everything that went into enabling us to do the mitzvah. And this gives us, and we've kind of touched upon this topic other times as well, but this gives us a real appreciation for a mitzvah, how a mitzvah can elevate even the lowest thing of the world. The food is the most coarse and physical item that there is. And you would think, what's the connection between food and godliness? But the answer is that no, the food gives us the energy to do what we need to do. Beth, you had a question? Was I seeing that right? No? Okay. So let us read inside. Let us see that inside. So it says like this. And if you have the book, you should be looking at page 414. Okay? Page 414. At the bottom, section 3, elevating your food to God. In addition to the primary involvement of A, the body, B, the animal soul in the mitzvah act, we will now turn into the secondary involvement of C, the physical energy that powers them. And yet another point is that the energizing animal soul power invested in the spoken words of Torah and study or prayer, etc., or in the practical commandments, has been completely nourished and sustained by the blood, which is from Klipas Noga itself. This nourishment of the blood being from all the food and drink that you ate and drank, which entered your blood and came under its ruling spiritual force of Klipas Noga and became its source of nourishment. So if you recall, in the earlier chapters, we explained how the animal soul resides in the blood. And the animal soul is the energy of your body. So what he's saying here is when you eat, and that food that you eat, that energy becomes a part of your blood, and the blood is now connected with your animal soul. But when you use the power of your animal soul to do a mitzvah, now you are elevating all the food and drink that became a part of your animal soul. As he says here, the food and drink that gave you energy are an important participant in the mitzvah. Since that energy was from the powers of Klipat Noga are the elements of Klipa that can be redeemed. It follows that when you do a mitzvah, you elevate the food, the Klipas Noga energy too, as Tanya will now explain. So he continues. And now that you use this food energy in your blood to do a mitzvah, it's transformed from negative Klipat Noga to good and is absorbed into the powers of holiness through the power of the energizing soul that made your body move to do the mitzvah. So again, as we always explain, the godly soul itself cannot move your body. The animal soul moves your body. The godly soul has to enmesh itself within your animal soul. Let's continue. Since the power of your animal soul is nourished by the food in your blood, and then that power of your animal soul nourished the food in your blood, immersed itself in those words of Torah study or in a mitzvah act, the mitzvah act being the actual inner will of God, devoid of any hiding of face, and as a result, the energy from the food in your blood, which powered the animal soul to do the mitzvah, becomes absorbed in the blessed, infinite light, which is the mitzvah, since the mitzvah is the will of God. Okay, so we have the explanation how through doing a mitzvah, through doing a physical mitzvah, you're not only elevating your body, you're not only elevating your animal soul, but you are elevating much of the world around you, the items that went into you interacting with the world and being a physical human being in this world. Now, um, there's an interesting point that's brought out here. So, um, is it limited? Is the elevation that you're affecting the world limited to the food that you're eating? The answer would be no, because there's a lot that goes into, and we discussed this in a class a few years ago about Mashiach. There's a lot that goes into getting food at your table. There's the if you have used a delivery service, there's a driver, then there's the people who created the truck, then there's the country where the food came from, and the airplanes and the pilots. When you break it down, there is a lot involved in um, facilitating you to do a mitzvah. There's a lot that's involved over there. Um, there was one time, there was a story. Somebody once came to the Rebbe and asked him, or they tell a story. The stories, whether it's true or not, but the lesson is definitely true. It's explained in other places. And he asked him, how is it possible that Jews, which are only a few million, today we know it's 18 million, whatever it was back then, how is it the Jews that are so few can elevate the entire world? So the Rebbe told him, look in your jacket and see where your jacket's from. So whatever he looked in his jacket, let's say it's from Vietnam or South Korea, whatever it said. So the Rebbe told him, that's how you elevate the entire world. So this gets to really just there's a lengthy discussion about it, interesting discussion, and again we'll get to it probably in the JLI class this year on the 7 Noahide laws. But the entire world, basically, we are the soul of the world. The world is created for the Jewish people. The world is created for the Jewish people. So then why is there an entire world? There needs to be an entire world for us to be able to do the mitzvahs. So um, when someone who's not Jewish is involved in creating a just and moral world and does their 7 Noahide laws and creates a beautiful world in which Jewish people can do mitzvahs, then they are fulfilling their mission as well as facilitating the Jewish people for which the world is created to um, to do mitzvahs. Now, there's a fascinating talk of the Rebbe. That's the general understanding in mysticism, that the nations of the world are here to create a just and moral world in which Jewish people can do mitzvahs. There's a fascinating talk of the Rebbe in which he adds an additional idea that there's also something, there's also a mission for them themselves not related to our mitzvahs. So Rabbi Chaim Miller has it in his book. You can read about it in the book Turning Judaism Outwards. It's a fascinating piece. It's a little too much for now, and it's also more involved. But generally, this is the general understanding. The general understanding is that the world is created for us, and everything in this world fulfills its mission by allowing us to do our mission. And just in case you think, I just want to show this to you from Rashi. So in the first verse of the Torah says, in the beginning of God's creation of heaven and earth. So let's go to the second Rashi. Second Rashi says, this verse calls for a midrashic interpretation because, according to its simple interpretation, anyways, he continues, it teaches us that the sequence of creation, okay, now, let me go here. As our rabbi stated, Genesis Rabbah, God created the world for the sake of Torah, which is called the beginning of his way, and for the sake of Israel, who are called the first of his grain. So already the second Rashi, I should say, in the Chumash is telling us that the word Bereshis means the world is created for Beis Rashis. Beis Rashis means two beginnings. And one Rashis beginning is the Torah. The Torah in other areas is called Rashis. And the Jewish people are also called Rashis, the first of his grain. So Bereshis means Beis Rashis. The world is created for two Rashis. What are the two Rashis? For the Torah and for the Jewish people. So again, we see the world. So I'm saying in case you think it's just Hasidic philosophy, already the second Rashi and the Chumash tells us the world is created for the Jewish people. We are the soul of the world, and it's a fascinating thing to imagine. But we do believe that the entire world is here to facilitate us doing Torah and mitzvahs, doing our commandments, and by that we make this world a home for God.
Rabbi,
Now, yeah,
I have a question.
yes.
You always talk about elevating things. Can we elevate people? Not just Jewish people, but non-Jewish people. Can we elevate them?
Um, the answer, I believe, to an extent, is yes. Um, they are supposed, if they are making this world a just and moral and hospitable place, for us to do mitzvahs, and then they are facilitating that. And well, let's put it this way: if they do what they need to do, and we don't do what we need to do, I'll leave it up to God how to judge how to figure that out. But technically, yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. They're supposed to do what they need to do and create this place where we can do mitzvahs and thereby elevate them.
Right. So you talked about the what jacket are you wearing? So if we're
Correct.
wearing a jacket that helps us do things and it was made by Vietnamese people, do we then elevate those Vietnamese people who made the jacket that made it possible for us to continue to do our mitzvahs?
Yes, they have become a part of God's plan.
Okay, good, good, thank you.
Yeah, they have become a part of God's plan. But what I was trying to get to was the sad part, if you want to call it the sad part, if a Jew takes all from this world and then doesn't use it in a good way, now you've disappointed everyone. You know, the song "The Whole World Is Waiting on You," or I don't know, whatever these songs, and all different versions of that. There's the statement of Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, the statement of Hillel. For me, I think it was Hillel said, right? The world was created for me. Every person has to say the world is created for me. We now understand the responsibility of that even more today. The whole world is truly waiting on us to do our commandments and to do our mitzvahs because they're getting it ready, but we need to do it. I mean, think of let's say America. America created this wonderful place of freedom of religion and a place where we can serve God in peace without being persecuted. And one would have to believe that by us doing the mitzvos here, we are elevating them. Like I said, the Rebbe in another talk, but again, it's not usually what it said, but the Rebbe in a specific talk explained how there is also a certain intrinsic mission they have aside from helping us. But in the general sense, let's say their mission is to create a just and moral world in which we can do Torah mitzvahs. That is why, if you look at the seven Noahide laws, they are generally about living a moral life. Right? That's what they are. None of them are really quote unquote this of the more spiritual nature, right? Don't kill, don't steal, set up courts of justice, believe in one God. They have to do it from a belief in God. Um, but that's the general idea of their mission. They don't have mitzvahs like tefillin and kosher and mezuzah and all those different and sukkot and Pesach. They don't have any of those. That being said, again, Judaism has a very, unlike other religions, Judaism has a very positive outlook. If someone who's not Jewish does all these things, like you said, we elevate them, and they also get a reward and a connection with God
So
as
if
well.
they don't believe in God, though, they can't be elevated, is that what you're saying? Because one of the Noahide laws is a belief in God, so if you have a religion that's Shinto, for instance, which doesn't have a belief in God necessarily.
Yeah, it's a good question. In our teachings, they have to be keeping the seven Noahide laws because God commands it.
Okay.
Um,
So you wouldn't be able to elevate those people because they don't believe in God.
it's a good question. I don't know what the Shinto belief is specifically, but we may be elevating it to a certain extent, but they themselves may be blocking their own reward or connection with God that would come about through it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so they could still be elevated, but they may be blocking their reward because they aren't.
Or their personal connection to God, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm not, it's a good question. I can't say I know for sure. I'm just, like I said, I'm going to do a deep dive into it later on this year. Um, but it was brought up parenthetically here, so I had to mention it. Okay, so that is the end of the section describing all the different ways that we elevate the world around us. whether it is elevating our body, whether it's elevating our animal soul, whether it's elevating our food, and then from our food we can go and extend it to many, many other areas of life. Um, and I just want to end off one more idea over there. That is why, by the way, the Hasidic movement, this was actually one of the innovations of the Hasidic movement. The Baal Shem Tov, when he came around, much of the rest of the world was into, much of the rest of the Orthodox world was into shunning the physical world. They did a lot of fasting and a lot of rolling in the snow and sitting on ant piles, letting ants bite them. They felt very much we want to be spiritual, kind of a very ascetic type of life. How it came about is another discussion. And one of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov is no, we need to involve our body and our life. It's not the enemy. In fact, he would quote in the Torah, it says, if you see the donkey of your enemy, go and help them. And he used to explain that the enemy is the body, and the donkey, chamor in Hebrew means chumriyut, the physicality. The physicality is you think is your enemy, but really you should go and help it. That's what he used to say. So the idea is that we have to make sure is that we don't look at the world as an enemy, but we look at it as something that can be elevated and should be elevated, and that's in fact what our mission is. So if we shun the world, we are actually missing out on the real reason that it's the reason we're in this world, and the real reason is there. Some examples of this is, for example, the Rebbe, unlike some other leaders at his time, was very much into utilizing technology. Uh, the Rebbe utilized Farbrengens were broadcast on TV, and many Hasidic groups they would look at, Feh, your Rebbe is on TV. How is it possible? How could he show his face on TV? TV is a terrible place. And the Rebbe would say, no, TV is really created for good things. Just because it's used other times for not good things, doesn't mean we shouldn't use it. Similarly, working. In some Hasidic groups, they want the most important thing is that people should study all day. And by us, all right, people who are going to become rabbis and teachers, they need to study all day. But generally, it's not a path that people should be taking, unless, of course, you're retired and But just to live off of charity and study all day is not a thing in the Chabad group. Again, if you need to live off charity to study all day to become a rabbi, you need to study for a couple of years. But to these and other groups, they have people who literally are just paid to study for 50 years. And it's not really a Chabad way because again, we believe in getting involved in the world. And so all of these are just examples of this idea being brought up within the world. Ideas that if our mission is to elevate the world around us, who are we to disassociate and disconnect ourselves from the world? And the Rebbe used to say, actually, that's why in some ways, business people are doing a greater mission than rabbis and teachers, because the rabbis and teachers are just teaching you what you should do. But you're actually there in the world and elevating much more of the world and getting the message of God out in a far broader range than the rabbis and the teachers are doing. Okay. So now we're going to go to the next section. Okay, section number 4. And we're trying to get to a place where, again, the whole goal here is what did God want? God wants the home in this world. What is a home in this world? That is when God can feel at home here. When is that? That's in the times of Mashiach. And that's what we're waiting for, right? That's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for time when the Mashiach will come and God can be here on this earth in a full revelation. So, and then the next section, he's going to explain how God will reveal himself in the entire world. And it's dependent on us doing the 613 commandments. So first he's going to explain that we have to do all 613. The reason there are 613 commandments is because each commandment is connected to a different part of this world, and therefore we cannot skip any commandments. Okay, that's going to be his number one. He's also going to explain how the negative, keeping the negative commandments also make sure that we don't create any blockages, and how when Mashiach comes, all the evil will disappear. and there will be a full revelation of God here on this earth. So this next section is kind of, when I was looking at it earlier, it's a little, I don't want to say the word broken up, but it was a little tough, a little bit of a tough read. So hopefully we'll get through this. Like I said, a lot of people don't learn these chapters, so but you're gonna be plugged into the secrets, and you're gonna know exactly the chapters that nobody else learns. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look here. What's in the comment here? Sounds rashish. Rashish. Racist. Okay. Let's take a look at the chapter over here. Okay. Oh, and I missed the last line. And along with the energy, the power of the energized animal soul. Okay, which is used to carry and elevate absorbed. Okay. Section 4, the effect of Klipas Noga's elevation. The effects of all this Klipas Noga elevation through the body, animal soul, and food energy that powered them are cumulative and will eventually result in the entire global force of Klipas Noga being elevated to God. So what he's explaining here is like this. He's explaining to you that that over the centuries of Jewish people doing the mitzvot, we are cumulatively elevating different elements of the klipat noga throughout the world, until ultimately, when Mashiach comes, we will have elevated the entire earth. So let's go to the next section. And through this entire global force of klipas noga will be elevated to, which is the foundational energy of this physical material world. So in other words, if you elevate every area of the world, eventually you're going to elevate the entire world. That's basically what he's saying, right? You're going to get to the foundational energy of this entire world. And how does this come about? This comes about, and this global elevation will be complete when every neshama, every divine soul in Israel, globally will cause every animal soul to observe all the mitzvos, thereby elevating the entire structure of the klipas noga, of the impure klipos of the world. The Tanya now clarifies how many souls are we speaking of. Okay, so we said that how do we bring about this time when the entire world is elevated? It is through every single soul. That means you and me doing all of our mitzvahs. And how many souls are there? So he says, Israel refers to a group of souls which is divided into 600,000 core units, which is then further subdivided into millions of Jewish souls which have spread throughout history. So the number 600,000 generally comes from the Jewish people in the desert. The number 600,000, the census of the Israelites in the desert after Sinai totaled approximately 600,000 individuals. According to Kabbalah, this hints to mystical reality that God created 600,000 basic soul units within the Jewish people, and each of our souls is a spark from one of these core 600,000. All of these soul units need to observe the Torah in order for Klipat Noga, for the impure Klipot to be elevated on a global level. So let me just explain for a moment, because this gets to reincarnation. When we discussed reincarnation, we discussed how every single one of us has to keep coming down to this earth until we are completely elevate our entire soul. How do we elevate our entire soul? Is by doing the 613 commandments. Now we all have to do all 613. It could take centuries. It could take thousands of years, as each soul has to come back and back and back, and each time it has a different part to elevate. We spoke about this a little bit in our class, JLI Journey of the Soul, but I just want to stop here to explain it a little bit. Think of it like this. Think of it that you have a workplace, and there's a divide and conquer. There's 100 people working in the business. Everybody has their job. Everybody has their mission. And when everybody completes their mission, the product is complete. The same thing is on this world. There are, let's say, 600,000 souls. And by the way, when we say 600,000 souls, you say, what about the woman? The answer is, of course, that we know that men and women are both each half a soul that unite together in marriage. So just putting that aside, so 600,000, each soul is really can be split to male and female. Okay, so putting that aside for now, so these 600,000 souls, when God created the world, He gave them all a mission. He gave them all a mission to elevate the entire earth. And each of these souls has its own section of the world to elevate. And by doing all 613 commandments throughout its many lifetimes, it will reach to every single corner of the globe that it needed to reach to. And if every single one of the 600,000 souls completes their mission, then we will have all collectively completed our mission, and we will have all collectively reached every single corner of the earth, and that automatically will bring about the Mashiach. The example I like to give all the time is just like one example is like laying down train tracks. Okay, if you're building a train track, you don't want to put the train on until you put in the last track, right? But a better example I like is laying wire for electricity. And until you put that last wire for for the complete circuit, it doesn't light up, right? Can't get really electricity going through it properly. So that's kind of what we're doing. Our 600,000 souls, we're all engineers, so to speak. We're heading out throughout the world, laying the wire for God to be revealed. And when we complete it, that's when Mashiach will come. So here it creates for us a very important level of responsibility. That means that the Mashiach is waiting for each and every single individual. There is no individual who is exempt from bringing the Mashiach, because in order for Mashiach to come, all 600,000 souls need to do their part in the mission. Now, you might ask, Rabbi, then we're going to be waiting forever. I mean, how many Jews are involved? How many Jews are doing mitzvahs? I mean, what's the where this doesn't sound like a wise plan. It doesn't sound like it's working very well. Most Jews today don't keep mitzvahs, and even those that do don't keep all of them. So what's going on? The answer is, of course, that we believe that good is cumulative, meaning the good deeds that we do build over time. So our soul is now on its, let's say you're back down for the 15th time, 20th time, I don't know. All the good that you've done till now remains. Okay? So you might have one little thing that you have to do left. Okay? You might have one little mission that's waiting on you to complete in order to bring the Mashiach. Okay? So, though in your general life, maybe you're not so religious, but if you can catch that final item, then you will have brought the Mashiach. Maybe it's keeping Shabbat. Maybe it's keeping Passover. Maybe it's putting on tefillin. Maybe it's charity. I don't know. There's so many different things, but that's kind of why we say that though you might look around the world and say, well, we're kind of lost, but every single Jew um, has this cumulative power. And by the way, this explains how all of us can do all 613 commandments. If you think about it, there's many commandments we can't do today. All the commandments that are tied to the holy temple we cannot do. So how can we all say we'll reach doing all 613? I can't do most of them today. A lot of the commandments I can't do today without the temple, without living in Israel. And the answer is obviously we believe that in your previous incarnation, in a previous lifetime, you lived in the times of the temple and you did do those mitzvahs. So those mitzvahs are taken care of. That part of the world you elevated. Now you need to do a different mitzvah, a different item, a different thing in this world that is waiting for you to elevate. So the good that we do is cumulative. The bad wipes away every generation, and the good remains forever. At most, bad, as it says, right, remains for 4 generations, but the good is cumulative. But this again explains to us the importance of each and every single one of us doing a mitzvah, one more mitzvah, because you don't know what's that next mitzvah you need to do. And one of the things it says in our holy books is that it's possible that the thing that's hardest for you, that's the one that your soul is waiting for. That's the one that your soul needs. I just want to tell a story, a quick story that illustrates this idea. It's a famous story that with the Baal Shem Tov, but I'll tell you the story. The story goes like this. There was one time, it's just a story of incarnation, but there was one time a couple that came to the Baal Shem Tov and they wanted a blessing for a baby. So the Baal Shem Tov pushed them off. Didn't want to give them a blessing for a baby. Anyways, finally, he agreed. He gave them a blessing for a baby. They had Baruch Hashem, that a baby that was born, such a cute baby, and the baby was great until the baby was 2. It was time to eat solids. They put some food in the baby's mouth, and the moment the baby ate some food, the baby died. And this family was heartbroken. And, here they got a blessing for a child, and now the baby dies. So they come back to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov tells them, let me tell you a story. He says there was one time a king. And this king had a son, a prince. And this prince was very, very smart. And he went through a lot of teachers, and every time he would get a teacher, and he would get a new teacher, and eventually he would, know more than the teacher. So, anyways, one day the king heard that there's a very, very wise priest that lives somewhere that could explain that really, really knows his stuff and could really um, explain to him that was very smart. Anyway, so this teacher comes. The king wants to hire this teacher. The teacher says, I'm fine and I'm happy to teach your son, but on one condition, every single day, I need 1 hour of privacy. 1 hour I'm in my room and nobody bothers me. I have time I need to spend with God. I need my moment of meditation. I need 1 hour a day to myself. So the king says, no problem. He hires the priest. The priest comes. He starts teaching the king's son, and the prince loves this teacher. This teacher is the best of the best. Just a really brilliant, and his character and everything about him. He never experienced somebody like this. And he was so connected to his teacher that it would bother him. What does his teacher do for 1 hour a day? And he would beg and cajole his teacher, tell me, what do you do? And he says, no, it's a private moment, me with God. You can't come. Anyways, this prince, again, so connected to his teacher, he couldn't handle it. And so one day he found a way to sneak into the teacher's room, and he was hiding there as the teacher went in and locked the door. And lo and behold, he sees the teacher pulls out the bag with a funny shawl that has, black stripes and white stripes, and puts it on his back. Then he starts wrapping some things in his arm and his head. And the kid has no idea what the teacher is doing, the priest is doing. So he jumps out to the priest and he says, I see you. I see what you're doing. And the priest is all scared, of course. He's caught. He's a Jew. And he says, what are you doing? He says, listen, I could tell you, but you have to promise me don't tell anybody, because if anybody finds out, it's off with my head. So after this fateful day, this priest, who was a hidden Jew, and why exactly it's a story for another time, but probably you'll see at the end of the story, the kid wanted to know about Judaism. Like I said, he really connected his teacher. And so the teacher started teaching him about Judaism. And the kid, obviously, was a smart kid, a wise kid. Eventually, one day tells the teacher that he wants to convert. He wants to be Jewish. The teacher says, it's not possible. Your father's the king. How are you going to pull it up? He says, no, I want to do it. So they devised a plan in which the kid will, quote unquote, go to a school far away, and he'll never return. And that's indeed what happened. This prince ran away and converted and became a simple Jew in another country. And so the Baal Shem Tov continues the story and says, when this prince lived out his full life and he died, he came to heaven, and they said, look, here you have a Jew who gave up everything, riches, honor, kingship, all just to live a life as a Jew. And what greater reward can there be? Let's put him in the highest places in heaven. And the accusing angel said, it's true, it's a nice idea, but there's one problem. And when he was a kid, he was nursing from a non-Jewish mother. He was drinking non-kosher milk. He grew up on the non-kosher milk of a mother. Just interesting, by the way, as a parallel, we know it says in the Torah about Moses. When Pharaoh's daughter picked up Moses, Moses did not want to nurse from any of the non-Jewish nurses. And in fact, what happened was in the end, Miriam brought Moses back to his mother. His mother was paid to nurse Moses, and then he was brought back to the kingdom. And the commentaries explain, because it cannot be that the person that would be talking directly to God would have a mouth that would have eaten non-kosher. So anyway, so putting that aside, so again, the accusing angels in heaven said, we would love to put him in the highest of places, but how can we put the child who lived off of this, grew up, was weaned on non-kosher milk, non-kosher mother's milk? How could that be the person who could be elevated to such a high status? And so in heaven they decided that this child would have to come back down to this earth and would have to be raised by a kosher Jewish family for the months for the first few years of his life when he is nursing, and then after that he can go back to heaven. And the Baal Shem Tov turned to this couple and said, that prince was your child. You brought him into this world, and now you have elevated his soul and allowed his soul to continue on his wonderful spiritual journey. And I'm not going to get into the rest of the story with the couple and the Baal Shem Tov, but I'm bringing this story to point out this idea, is that this prince lived a very honorable life and did so many great things. But he had to come down for one specific thing. The soul came down to this earth for one specific thing. And the same idea is each and every single one of us, we may be coming down to this earth to accomplish a specific item that is left on our plate, so to speak. And when we all, Jewish souls, complete our specific items, that is when the Mashiach is going to come. So when all 600,000 Jews complete all 613 commandments, that's when the Mashiach will come. So let's take a look inside again. So he says, he says, when will Mashiach come? When every single soul of the 600,000 will do their commandments. And now he's going to specify, what does it mean they do all the commandments? Meaning specifically, each individual soul must observe all 613 mitzvos of the Torah, including the 365 prohibitions, in order to keep the body's 365 major blood vessels where the energizing animal soul is found from being nourished by one of the sins, which would cause them to receive energy from one of the three completely impure klipot. Since it is from these three completely impure klipot that an energy flows to the 365 biblical prohibitions and the rabbinic derivatives. So again, when we do a negative commandment, when we transgress, we are, so to speak, filling our energy with a dirty energy. And you got to keeping the 365 negative commandments is like, making sure your kidneys are working. Keeps your energy clean. Clean energy, right? Today, everybody's all about clean energy. So now you know the real clean energy. The real clean energy is when you make sure not to transgress the 365 commandments. Just by the way, generally, right, 365 is the days of a solar year. The Zohar is the one that connects the 365 with the 365 arteries of the body. The exact number they get to that, it's not important. Anyways, the point is that keeping the 365 negative commandments keeps our energy clean. And then he continues. Once the energizing animal soul in the blood is contaminated by one of the three impure klipot, it can no longer be elevated to God. So this goes back to kind of the question that Dr. Yannick was saying, and then it's maybe again that's why I'm unsure exactly. But again, think of it: if you eat pork, and with the energy of the pork, you're going to do a mitzvah, you cannot elevate that pork. That pork is contaminated. That pork cannot be elevated, as he says. Since unlike permitted pleasures of klipos noga, the three completely impure klipot can never be elevated. And again, we say three impure klipot, that's what we call the energy that cannot be elevated. Rather, they must be eradicated and removed completely. As the verse states, I will remove the spiritual impurity from the earth, indicating the spirit of complete impurity must be removed, it cannot be elevated. So when Mashiach comes, God says, I will remove a spirit of impurity. Now, as we know from my Mashiach class, pig will become kosher, but that's another discussion for another time. But the point is, there are certain energies in this world that cannot be elevated, and therefore, when Mashiach comes, they will have to be removed. And then he continues, and in addition to refraining from prohibitions, every soul must observe the 248 positive mitzvot, which have the spiritual effect of pulling the blessed infinite light downwards into this world, and they also have the effect of elevating the person. So again, when you do a mitzvah, you're elevating the world and you're elevating the person. And here's an important line: connecting and merging the whole structure of the energizing animal soul found in the 248 limbs of the body to merge completely with the blessed infinite light. So we know there are 248 positive commandments. They correspond, according to the Zohar, to the 248 limbs of the body, which means every single mitzvah elevates a specific limb. By preventing the completely impure klipot from entering the body through refraining from the 365 prohibitions, there is no obstacle to elevating the body to God by means of the 248 positive mitzvot. And when this is achieved, even the animal soul becomes literally one with God, thereby fulfilling the will which arose in God's mind before creation, that he should have a home in the lowest realms, which have now become a chariot like the patriarchs. So this is all to explain, again, how do we bring about this home for God? How do we bring about this Messianic era? Is, of course, by refraining from the 365, doing the 248, and the 248 positive commandments as we've explained here, they elevate, each and every single one elevates a different part of our body. And so that's what I would tell you, is it's possible that there is, and we have a guess, there is a part of your body that it's possible there is a part of your body that is waiting for a mitzvah to elevate that specific part of your body. And therefore, it's important to fulfill as many mitzvahs as we can. I would just mention the Rebbe, and we might show a video at the end. The Rebbe would often tell people there's a concept in Judaism that if you have a part of your body that's sick, it might be because the mitzvah that's connected with that limb is sick. And if you want to heal it, one would need to do a mitzvah with that part of the body. Someone wrote here, kosher laws were not around during Moses' birth. What they ate was between them and God. So the answer to that question is the knowledge of kosher was around. The commandment of kosher was not. So we know we are told that our patriarchs and matriarchs, they kept all the laws of the Torah before the Torah was given. So before the giving of the Torah, the commandments were known. It's just that people didn't necessarily keep them because they weren't commanded. They didn't have to. The patriarchs and matriarchs and the holy people did keep them. The Levites generally kept them. So you would be correct. He wouldn't necessarily be sinning by eating non-kosher, but nevertheless, the man who would receive the Torah from God himself should have been eating kosher. But very good and well taken point. Let us finish off here inside this section. So it continues over here. Now we can understand the statement above that Klipas Noga will be elevated to God globally when every individual soul observes the 613, and when the whole structure of the energizing animal soul in all of Israel will become a chariot to God, then the whole energy structure of this world, which is currently from Klipas Noga, will leave its impurity and filth and be elevated to holiness, becoming a chariot to God. So in other words, right now the world gets its energy, so to speak, from the Klipa Noga, which is that intermediate Klipa, that energy that's not holy and not holy, but it's not holy. But when we have transformed every single section of this world to be connected to God, then automatically the entire worldly energy is going to be godly. And so now we understand beautifully. You know, it says when Mashiach comes, God's going to be revealed. Well, how does that happen? That happens because we have changed the structure of the energy within this world. We have changed what's powering this world. It's like, just imagine, we're, so to speak, we're updating the grid, okay? Imagine you're into clean energy, okay? Let's give you an example. It's just a physical example, like, you know, because it is a good example, even if, you know. So imagine you're updating the grid, and when, you know, so to speak, your clean energy is ready, then, you know, you put the whole new grid on a different line. The same thing is now we're updating the grid. We're updating the energy system of the world, one mitzvah at a time. But it's only going to light up when all the wires are there and connected. And so once, as Jewish people collectively, each and every single one of us, all 600,000, keeps all 613, we're going to update the entire grid, the entire power and energy and spiritual energies that's powering this world, and then it will be elevated to holiness. Let's continue. And this will be in the Messianic era, when his glory will be revealed, and all flesh will see together that God is speaking. So here we see, again, the revelation of God in the times of Mashiach is not just a so to speak, a disconnected reward for what we've done. It's a natural next step. If we've changed the spiritual energy of the world to now be directly godly, then obviously God's going to be revealed everywhere. Let's continue. And then he will shine forth over them with the majesty of his triumphant strength, and the glory of God will fill all the earth. And Israel shall see God eye to eye, like at the giving of the Torah, of which the verse states, you were shown to know that God is the God, there's none beside him. So when God gave us the Torah, the world was still getting its energy from, so to speak, a hidden place, because the world did not change its energy source. But when Mashiach comes, automatically it's going to be like the giving of the Torah, because we will have changed the world source to be directly from God, right? As we explained in previous chapters, like the difference between God giving energy directly to us or throwing it over his back. We're, like, so to speak, right now, like getting it over his back. Klipas Noga then is destined to be elevated in its entirety to God. But what will become of the three impure klipa that cannot be elevated? And he continues, as a direct result of this global elevation of the fundamental structure of klipa noga, the three completely impure klipas will be entirely consumed and eradicated, because currently their nourishment and sustenance comes from the realm of holiness via klipas noga, which acts as intermediate between them. So in other words, Again, the Kabbalistic explanation here is so beautiful. Why is evil going to disappear when Mashiach comes? Because until Mashiach comes and the world is getting its sustenance from this intermediate power, this power that is neither good nor bad, this Klipat Noga, that intermediate power can power the impurities of the world. But the moment we switch the world from being powered by the Klipat Noga to complete holiness, then automatically the three impure Klipas of the world would be gone. So let's put it this way. As of now, the Klipat Noga is not completely elevated. Therefore, it can still give to the unclean forces of this world. Okay, that's how evil still exists in this world, through the Klipat Noga. The Klipat Noga is the basis of the energy of this world. But we can see the evil energies of this world, they're in desperation mode because they know they're about to be cut off. It's like, when someone, God forbid, when someone's choking and they see they're going to lose, they work much harder, right, to survive. They fight much harder. The klipa now, the evil of this world, why does it look so bad right now? Because it knows it's at its dying breath. It's fighting for those last gasps of breath. It sees how its energy source is being cut off. As we have, through thousands of years, been changing the energy structure of this world, it sees it's almost cut off. It's going to disappear soon. And so evil is showing its ugly face in a very powerful way because it's in desperation mode. And so the world right now is getting a little meshuggah, whatever is going on in Australia and then the EU and France and the UK. We can say that those are signs of desperation of the evil, realizing that obviously the people doing it don't see it, but in its structure source of evil, it recognizes that evil is going to be eradicated. And of course, we know when Mashiach comes, so what about the evil people of this world? They will disappear too. If the energy structure of the world changes, then complete evil of this world will not be able to exist. And so here we see, again, the beauty of Hasidic philosophy explains the depth and meaning of all these things we talk about Mashiach. They're not just technicalities. It all fits beautifully together. Simply put, our job is to make a home for God in this world. How do we make a home for God in this world? We do Torah mitzvahs. By doing Torah mitzvahs, we elevate all of the areas of this world. When we elevate it, what does that mean? We are connecting it directly with the godly source, not having to get its sustenance through the klipat noga. We are giving it sustenance directly through God. And when we complete this entire circuit, then the entire earth will be vivified from this godly source directly. Automatically, all of the evil of this world will cease to exist, and God himself will be shining in this earth just like he was at the time of the giving of the Torah. We're not going to go to the next part right now. What I'm going to do instead is we mentioned this idea how every single mitzvah can elevate a different part of our lives. And right, that's what we were trying to get to, how we need to get to every single element of this world. So I just want to show, I'm not going to show the entire video, but it's a video of the Rabbi where he went on to just two stories where the Rabbi showed this idea of how mitzvos are connected with different parts of our lives, and therefore being healthy spiritually in all parts of our lives can make us physically healthy. And now we understand why, based on what we said here. If you're spiritually healthy, if you're doing the mitzvos, they give it a special spiritual energy to those parts of your body. And therefore, it follows that being spiritually healthy for a Jew, for Gentile, but for everyone, but the specific mitzvah that might be connected to that physical ailment will help physically that ailment. So let's take a look here at the screen. And oops, I'm doing it wrong. And again, I'm not going to share the entire video because the last person talking speaks in Hebrew. So I'm going to skip that one. But let's take a look here at this.
כדי zu sein ein gesunder Mensch, darf sein ein gesunder Ried. כדי zu sein ein gesunder Ried, des Heim Chayenu, derech Yomenu, darf sein durchgenommen mit Tiedigkeit, mit Teru, mit Zviseho.
Friday night, I was having a heart attack.
Can you guys see the actual video, or you just see the subtitles?
Subtitles.
Oh, it's doing that again. Shame. Well, I'll play it anyways. I'll have to. In the meantime, I'll open it up in another screen and I'll fix it while I'm doing that. Okay. So it'll be fixed.
There was a vessel that was blocked. Those days they used angioplasty. There was no stents at the time. And Shabbos morning, again, it collapsed. They redid it. And they told me that one of the problems is that I was clotting. I was clotting terribly. and they were giving me 4 times the amount of heparin, which is a blood thinner, and it just wasn't taking. Sunday morning, my wife went to the Rebbe to ask for a bracha.
My husband is in Mount Sinai with a heart condition. The name is Naftali Elimelech and Esther Rachel. Dr. Kosher
She called me up. I told her, please bring it in. They had given me a few transfusions, and they told me that it's just not helping. Tuesday at 3 o'clock, they have to take out all my blood and put back other blood. This was Monday afternoon. Monday night at midnight, my wife gets a call from Rabbi Groner. He says that Rebbe wants to know what is wrong with your husband's film. She said, film are not back yet. He said, here's my number. You'll call me back as soon as you hear it. The Rebbe's waiting for an answer. She called the cipher 9, 10 o'clock. He says, your husband's film are next. They will be checked. I will get back to you at 12, 12:30. He did get back at 12:30. Said the film are 100% kosher. Just the tag from the lamed of Levavecha is missing. A tag you can fix. I fixed it. It's done. You can pick up your husband's film anytime. They came in about 1:30 to take my blood again. My blood was back to normal. They said it's impossible. They must have mixed up the blood because I've been clotting for the last 2 days, 3 days. They came again. They took blood again. Blood's back to normal. Mr. Feldman, you can go home. The blood was totally back to normal.
So just 1 second, I'm going to relaunch it because I fixed the problem. So 1 second here, and this is Chrome every once in a while does this. But there you saw one story again of this idea of that's kind of what I wanted to show was this idea that every single mitzvah is connected with part of the body. You know what? It's going to be let me see 1 second. There's one more. Oh, there. Okay, 1 second. Let's see if anyways, I want to see if this works. Oh, here it is. For next time. Let's see, share.
My blood was totally back to normal.
Bikim ramach mitzvesese bakumter gesunter ramach hevrim druchlim bemelo idasmam shel birchas von reife kolbosser ramach lilases in der ramach hevrim dashim weil der zal de schmieres von chasam mitzvesese da noch mamsher der birchas Hashem reife kolbosser ramach lilases in der Chassal gibt den Gashim und es geht darum, ein ganzer Guf und ein gesunder Guf, der Fall, was hat tegen der gesunde Neshama.
We're going to skip the next story because we're out of time. But at least I fixed it. And I know for next time I can share videos again. So Baruch Hashem, I fixed the problem. But so what's the takeaway today? The takeaway today is we all want to bring the Mashiach. And the way to do that is each and every single one of us doing as many commandments as we can. We don't really know what we're back here for, what mitzvah exactly it is. So therefore, try and do as many as you can. And just remember, don't judge yourself that you're not doing all of them. Our soul came down probably for a particular one. And God will present you with that opportunity. God will give you that opportunity to do it. Obviously, doing more mitzvahs and trying to do your best will get you there. And God will give you that opportunity if you keep trying to do that mitzvah that the world is waiting for. And hopefully not only you will do your mitzvah, but you will inspire others to do their mitzvah. And then we will change the energy structure of this world. The evil of this world will disappear and we will see the glory of God once more.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.